Yeah, we're starting a bit over 24 hours early, and it's not good for me, but that's my life. Here's my list, which I wrote this morning. All items in red need to be done before I leave, and there's quite a lot, but most of them are little things, you know. Just getting organised, because I never totally got organised when we left Lagos.
Hi Don, we're finally chatting about your Trekka and your experiences coming down to Marina Rubicon. And you left actually on a different time. So what did you learn coming down?
Well, it was actually really cool because, I left him in my own time. I was very relaxed and more or less ready to go. And we got out and the weather was solid, you know, right from literally the first 12 hours. You know, we had a good following breeze. Everything for the whole trip generally was right behind us, so it was easy to get miles up. And the first 2 days I was learning a lot about the boat. First of all, your first impressions is all good. You know, it's a solid boat. The human dynamics work, although I kept banging my head and hitting my shins and all that sort of stuff. But what was happening was that invariably I would often be stuck in the boat with too much sail up and then realise that, oh, hang on a minute, we're running downwind, but if you round up and stuff, all of a sudden it's really solid because the apparent wind's changed and you realise how windy it really is. We're not allowed to have wind instruments and other silly things I was thinking. I haven't really been sailing for a couple of years now, you know, I've been sitting behind a computer. So I was getting caught with this big boat feeling. It feels like a 10-metre boat. It's hard to describe, but it really does feel like a big boat. And it's not. It's a little boat with a little waterline, and it's relatively not extreme beam, but it's a solid tubby boat down the back end. And so it was a couple of days before I realised how you needed to sail the boat. Never once felt dangerous, and then the weather was good. I was getting bits of everything. We had quite a few squalls, you know, just the trade winds, but big squalls in between the fluffy clouds. And after a couple of days, I got up in one morning and I was stuck between two squalls, which was creating havoc. The wind was changing directions rapidly and up and down and all sorts of things, but always good with the boat, easy to handle because everything's small. You know, you can just pull reefs in and stuff, so that was cool. And I was having a lot of fun. Then the night of the third night, I was sailing fast because it's funny, you get into the tracker mode, you know they're doing the average times every 4 hours, and there was an 8 o'clock at night was the end of the 4 hours, and I've been hooting along. And I got down to 1 or 2 reefs in the main or something, and then eventually got to no head sail at all. And I'm just boring along, everything's good, and then I thought, oh, it's getting a bit windy. So that night I could tell it was building. I'd been tipped off because I wasn't racing, so Ada actually told me, hey, the weather's going to fill in for a couple of days. That's all I got, and I was going to ring her back for a forecast later. And it was windy, so I ended up dropping everything that night and just running under bare poles, which was an interesting experience. The sea was building, it was 30, 35, but very manageable. Go down below about 8:30 or something, and I didn't come up until 7 o'clock in the morning. And I got about 7 hours sleep that night, and we were hooting along under bare poles at sort of like 4.5 to 8 knots, you know, making good average speeds, and everything was very comfortable. Getting a few big slaps on the side every now and then, which got a bit more frequent in the morning. So I got up and I did some nav for the first time. There was an interesting thing happened here, but in the morning I knew they were getting closer, and I had to go around a bank. And I decided to go over the top of this bank and get down the west coast of Lanzarote. So I thought, I'm going to need to come out and adjust things and, you know, head around a bit. And I'm under bare poles, so it's a bit hard to start coming up. Figured I have to put some sail up. Yes. So I did all that, and the weather kept picking up. So by about 8 o'clock, it's really starting to fill in from the blue. Not a cloud in the sky, and you know, not long after 45, gusting 50, and then in the end, during that sort of 4 or 5 hour period, quite solid gusts to 55, maybe even more. And I'm not exaggerating, you know, I've seen it all before. Very reminiscent of Antarctica. I've spent 23 seasons in Antarctica. I've seen it all off the coast of Antarctica, and you get very strong windstorms there, you know, little lows, intense lows that are forming and moving fast. And it was exactly the same. Clear blue sky, 5 metre seas, all the water getting blown off the waves, big white streams down, breaking water, you know, in big runs along these waves. And the boat was handling it pretty well, but I was being lazy because I didn't have the storm jib up, had no sail up, and I was just rolling out small pieces of the jib, because even with those wind strengths, when you've just got a little bit out, it doesn't overload the jib, you know. And I was running on the starboard quarter with the breeze, and it was all okay. But then, you know, I filled the cockpit a few times, you know, big waves breaking, blah blah blah. And then on one occasion we went sideways to it all. We screwed up and went sideways to it all, and we were pinned because it had no sail up. And it's windy, and I'm starting to go backwards about a knot. You know, sometimes I reckon a knot and a half. And I'm thinking, right, now I can't steer up, can't steer down, got no sail area. Can't roll out the head sail now because it's just blowing too much because you've stopped. And I'm thinking it's a matter of time before a big one goes here, and would I get rolled over? I don't know, maybe not. Wasn't worried about the boat still, the rig is good. And I brought the warps into the cockpit because I thought I'll pull away, stream some warps, which will help the balance and stuff. But I'm not a big fan of warps. And I thought, nah, scrap that. First I'll get the storm jib up and see what happens. So that's what I did, got the storm jib up, and then was able to pull away. It took about, you know, maybe 20 minutes by the time all this was happening. And got the storm jib up, then got some very different balance points. You know, the dodger was folded up. So that was fine, and we managed to pull away and head off downwind again. And then we were just in for the ride. It was quite interesting, and never once did I feel any concern for the boat letting me down. The fittings are so strong, the rig is so strong, everything about it is solid. So it was a fantastic run, and then it dropped off very fast. Really, over an hour and a half, you went through the turbulent period where there's little calms and big wind again, and a bit longer calm, a bit less wind, blah, blah, blah. Hour and a half later, it's all gone, and I'm just left with a sea and about 25 knots of wind. And so that was the fourth day. So I came into the last night, and it was a very euphoric feeling in a way, because I'd realised then that everything we tried to achieve with the concept of the boat was actually happening. You know, no boat's perfect, and this boat's special. It's absolutely a displacement boat, but a light displacement, not an ultralight, you know, like a Mini 650 where you're on the top of the water and you're flying like crazy. This is really sits in the water, and that means your average speeds are going to be easy to get, you know, hull speeds and stuff. So 100 miles, 120 mile days are going to be very common and consistent. Easy potential to 130 mile days when you're going places, but it's going to be very hard for someone to cram heaps of sail on it and go blasting like a 650. It's not going to happen, and that's going to make very interesting racing, because it means the fleet will be a little bit together maybe, and you can use a wind vane. So just explain this concept again. We restrict the battery capacity to 200 amps. We restrict the solar panels to 200 watts because we don't want people to rely on power. We want it to be an ocean voyaging boat with a wind vane, and the wind vane can steer this boat really well, you know. So it's kind of cool. So I was very happy, you know, to experience all these different things over a period of 5 days and sort of 600 miles or something. When I wasn't racing, I was just trying to be efficient. A couple of times I went for some speed, but you know, so it was a very good trial run. And down the boat down below is ridiculously comfortable. You know, I got 2 proper bunks and lee class, just like a bigger boat. It'd be a brilliant two-handed boat, you know. so yeah, it's kind of cool.
What's your last actual project, and what year was it, and how did you handle that, and in comparison to this now?
Yeah, the last time I raced solo was the BOC Challenge in 1990. That's a reality. You know, I've done a lot since then, but that was the last time I've been out single-handed racing. The last real project, expedition on small boat, was the Bounty boat in 2010, which is where the concept for this came from. You know, we did an open whale boat for 4,000 miles across the Pacific with virtually nothing, very little food, just a few biscuits in the morning and at night, and we had no charts, no toilet paper, 2 weeks worth of water for 48 days, and ropes and nails, and no technology, you know, and it was great. And so it was funny. When we left, I just thought, hadn't done any nav. I got all the gear on board, charts and compasses and handheld GPS and stuff. But normally I would write up a proper deck log, have a proper voyage plan, write the log up at least every 4 hours, often even more than that. I did nothing. I did one set of nav to work out where the bank was at the end, plotted some positions, worked out a course, and went from there. But when I left Lagos, all I knew was 210 for the course, and I knew the lat and long of Rivkin Marina here. And I felt a bit slack, no one was watching, it didn't matter. But then I realised after a couple of days, after 2 or 3 days, I thought, it's a hangover from the whole concept of the bounty boat trip, where I want it to be simple. I want it to be no sophistication and things. We've actually got a lot of safety gear on here. We've got everything. We've got a radar, Ecomax radar transponder. We've got AIS receivers, VHF radio, GPS chart plotters, satellite phones, blah, 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 blah. I just want to get rid of the lot and just go. And I think that's why I didn't start plotting courses and all those sorts of things beforehand, because I really was craving that simplicity of what's going on. I turned the radar detector on to make sure it was working, turned the VHF on to make sure, and the AIS is working, everything's working, but I left it all off, There were times when there was heavier traffic and I was up monitoring that, and then the rest of the time I hardly saw any ships. And I have my nav lights and I have a big special flashing light, and I was very comfortable. But I think, I had this inherent subconscious desire not to get too wrapped up with all the stuff, and so I enjoyed that. What happens from here, I'll do a bit of a mix, of what's going on, but it's a long way across, and I'm looking forward to getting out there, and it's been a bit of a dream for a long time. So I'm absolutely going to enjoy it. I'm not going to be worried about trying to keep up with the young ones, but at the same time, I don't want to be too far behind either. So,
So you had a great time, but we know you also as a great communicator. You have been winning a communicator award in the 1990s.
Yeah,
I think it was at the BUC too, eh?
Yeah.
So how was it to be untethered and offline?
It was good. Although, it was good. In fact, it was funny because I had no cameras that were working. I didn't get them sorted, and I just filmed that one little video on my iPhone before the battery went flat. And so I missed that because I missed the opportunities. In the storm, I was kicking myself. People wouldn't have believed what I was going through if I had cameras rolling, and that was disappointing because part of the reason this whole concept exists is because I like the idea now of sharing it. Yeah, you got to have something to paddle. I've got a paddle too, but not quite like that, But anyway, no, you need to paddle. You need to paddle if you're stuck somewhere. But you're not allowed to paddle during the race, otherwise you'll get banned for life. Okay. Yeah.
All cool, Don. So we had a bit of a timeout because the phone died. So you couldn't video anything or film anything.
No.
What you usually do.
Yeah.
So what's that story? What's that about, Don? We're videoing away here and you didn't do nothing.
I bought 360 cameras, I bought POV cameras, I've got everything here, but I didn't get a chance to work out how to use them. So they were on board, but I had no idea how to set up, and I got to, download apps and all that sort of stuff. In fact, I still haven't done it, and we're leaving in 2 days, so I've got to do it tonight.
Work like us, use your iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. No, I had the iPhone, but then I forgot the charger for the iPhone, so it was the end, But anyway, but I was miffed because if people had seen the blow, it's just a credit to the boat. It would have surprised a lot of people, I'm sure. But anyway, that's fine. I often say in Antarctica for people to put the camera down and enjoy the moment. When you see the first iceberg, it goes nuts, or the first whale or something. But anyway, part of that's because this whole program is all about sharing to other people, and getting people inspired about adventure, and not necessarily doing this, but they might go and ride a bike for the first time, or paddle a canoe, or do some other thing, And so that's part of sharing. It's not an ego trip for me. It's just to show people what it's like out here, and it inspires people. So that's cool.
How did you experience coming down to the island?
It wasn't just wanted to get in. I wasn't racing, and I knew I was coming into a calm, and with the sea breeze about to start. So it was like business as usual. It was I'd had my personal enjoyment and satisfaction moment, in the morning when the sun came up, because you knew the weather was dying and things like that. So I reflected on the whole thing, and I'm really happy. The concept, this boat, it meets our original specification and concept perfectly. I mean, it's fantastic, and a lot of people are starting to get it. So I don't know what the future holds for this one. Ask me at the end of 2022 and I'll let you know. But at the moment, there's more builders coming in nearly every day at the moment. But anyway, so it's quite interesting. Yeah. So when I arrived, all I think, geez, I'm going to get bagged because I'm not wearing my safety harness, it's kind of it's another interesting. I have these pet things, One is I hate black wet weather gear, like it's so stupid. Why would you go to sea see with black wet weather gear, you know. And another one is that it's really strange when I see, and I never ever criticize anyone from being overcautious or oversafe or whatever, and it seems strange for me when people wear their life jacket safety harness when they're down below. So we all have a responsibility to ourselves to set our own standard on what level of risk assessment you make and value judgments on what you're doing. But certainly I took my harness off when I was looking at the flat calm water and looking at you guys and the rib, and so I'm prancing around the boat. I know the boat well now. I've got handholds everywhere. But yeah, I wasn't wearing a safety harness. But that's not uncommon. Even when I'm at sea, often, a lot of the time I'm not wearing a safety harness when I'm in here, because in my opinion it's perfectly safe and it's, I'm okay. If I think we're in tough weather in here, I'm probably wearing it because you don't know what's going to happen. You might need to respond really quickly and stuff like that. But there's some things that I'm from a different era. We don't just wear it for the sake of wearing it. We wear it when we know we need it. And
so how do you do that judgment? Because when I do all the safety checks on other boats in the years, I ask them the question, will you be wearing your safety harness and vest? And they all say, yes, I will wear it all the time. And then I say, no, you won't, because when it's like 25 degrees, force 1/4, you will not wear it. So I want to know how you think about this. So how do you think about that, Don?
The first thing I think about is quite a few. I know quite a few people that aren't here now because they've fallen off their boats. They didn't make it. They disappeared. And you analyse those moments. And one in particular, which happened back in 1986. The guy disappeared. Extremely experienced sailor, this, that, and the other. And what we put it down to was that he was quite happy without wearing a harness, but all of a sudden the boat probably got hit by a whale, right? Inadvertently hit by a whale, and it changes the motion. So it's all of us. You get to know your boat, where your handhelds are. But if you get some outside influence, it can rock the boat quite literally, and you're gone. So that's a value judgment you have to make. But the thing is, if someone said, "Oh, I'm going to wear it 24 hours a day," that's ridiculous. You need to think about it. And if it's a regulation, a government regulation, like you have to wear a safety harness or a life jacket in your tender to row 50 metres ashore, you got to abide by the regulations. But when you're new to the game, wear it all the time. Wear it all the time. But at the end of the day, you know what you're worth. How you perceive risk, and you can be in a position where you make a refined or credible value judgment yourself, and you set your own standards. And we had one comment when I came in. Someone was thinking, "Oh, it's in the notice of race. You've got to wear your harness all the time." I said, "No. All of the equipment that we have on these boats are the same as the Class 650 and same as World Sailing and all that sort of stuff, but it's specified equipment. It's not specified when you have to wear it or what you have to do with it. That's up to you." And even when we say with a life raft, if it's down here, once you pass your safety, it's up to the captain of the boat to decide what they want to do with it and how they use it or how they store it and things like that. So anyway, but I'm very cautious. I'm still here after a lot of sailing and a lot of crazy adventures. And I fully intend to be with the boat wherever it is in the next few months, But yeah, I don't wear a harness all the time,
So we'll head out Wednesday morning.
Yeah.
So light weather, probably.
Yeah.
So what's your vision about the boat? Because maybe you think you always speak about it's a heavy boat. It's a big small boat. But how about light weather sailing?
I wouldn't call it a heavy boat, but it's certainly not a lightweight. It's not a lightweight. It does sit in the water, and it'll make its hull speed quite simply, quite easily. It's a very nice ocean voyaging boat that's not a lightweight, right? But it's respectable. So we'll be still moving. We can put spinnakers up if we want to and make the most of it. But yeah, it'll be still a couple of days of smooth seas and interesting sailing, but it should be consistent. So wait and see. For me, I'll be once again, I'll chuck things down below, and hopefully my cameras, I'll work out how they're working, and hopefully there's enough breeze to run the wind vane, which it should be. So we'll take it as it comes. We're not expecting extreme weather. It's going to be a little bit of work, but whatever happens, we've got to get south fast, otherwise we'll get bogged down.
So it would be cool if you could do something like a daily update for yourself on your iPhone.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I'll have the cameras rolling. It's important not only for me but for everyone else to see what goes on board. So I'll be doing the blog. If you haven't seen my experience 30 years ago, it's on YouTube. It's called McIntyre Knockdown. Okay, and that was the doco I did on my BOC challenge, which was groundbreaking at the time. We did things no one had ever done before. I had wireless transmitting microphones and fixed cameras and stuff, and it was sharing the experience. And it had I still get people today saying how it inspired them to go and do stuff. So this is a little boat across a big ocean. A lot of people have done it. It's not a big deal, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully I can film some of it and share that experience.
So what negative experience did you have coming up here?
Oh, well, just hitting my head a lot, hitting my shins and so on. Everything pretty much worked. I loosened a bolt on the wind vane to put Duralac on it, anti-seize on it, but I didn't realise it was done up with Loctite. That was a problem because it kept falling out. But I'm fixing that now. The rest of it, there's no real problems. It's amazing. I didn't have any real issues on the boat at all. It's so simple, there's not a lot to go wrong anyway, and it's so over strong for sailing around the world that really, when I say I got all these things to do, it's little stuff that I want to get done. And as I say, set up another jib. I want to be able to run twins. I don't take that too loudly because at the moment someone could borrow Severin's jib and take one, but I hope they don't because we can carry one spare sail. So I'm going to have, I want to run twins because if it fills in, it might be fast for this boat, but we'll see.
So one of them decided not to go any further. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's basically part of the game. Everything I've ever done, when you push yourself to the limit, you get nervous, you get a bit concerned, you wonder whether you're pushing beyond your capacity in terms of experience and background. You've got to do a bit of that. You can't be, I remember when I went to sailed to Antarctica for the first time in a little yacht, people say, how are you going to do that? You've never done that before. What a stupid statement. How can you always do something if not do something if you've never done it before? So there's a bit of pushing yourself. But at the same time, when you think you've gone beyond your capacity, you've got to listen to the voices, and the voices inside will speak to you, and you get to your limit and you say, no, it's not for me yet. And so Severin, that's what's happened. He was the sailor within this group of 6 that had the least amount of experience, and I'd said to Jane before, we've got to watch what goes on before the start. He was very competent and well prepared for the start to sail the qualifier. He's now done the qualifier, but he's found within himself he didn't like the solitude and having to make all those new decisions by himself, which was all completely new. He loves the boat, he's got a lot of faith in the boat, but he just doesn't feel right to carry on. His father is a sailing instructor, and he spoke to his father, and his father's spoken to him, and really it's a sensible decision because you're either right or you're not. And who knows what he'll do now. He may keep sailing the boat and come back to it again later on when he's got more experience, and it's a bold decision because he's got sponsors and stuff, and I can guarantee you every one of his sponsors will say that's a very smart move, because we all remember Donald Crowhurst in the original Golden Globe race, where pressures to go out when you weren't really ready can cause all sorts of dramas. So yeah, I admire his decision. He's a great guy. He'd done an incredible job to build the boat, in that short period of time, and be prepared and ready to go. And he took it in his stride, but he's just very smart. So that's who he is.
Cool. So about building the boat, I ask everybody, and maybe you can't answer this one. Maybe you didn't do the math yet.
Yeah.
But as is, where is, how much have you been
Oh, jeepers, you'd have
spending?
to ask the money lady, Jane. But no,
Jane says nothing.
Yeah. No, I reckon because we had a friend of ours help us with the structure. Pitor built the structure and stuff, and we've been paying for things where I haven't had the time to do it. We've done a fair bit ourselves. We've had plenty of volunteers helping us. Even you've worked on the boat for me, and Blaster doing the electrics and stuff like that. But I reckon, I'm probably now with everything, and it's ready to do the round the world race. I'm probably touching. If I got some good support from Plastimo, but let's say I was paying for a lot of that stuff, I'm probably touching 60. 60 about 60, yeah, which is double what Jim's paid, you know.
So it's no wonder that your boat's so heavy, eh?
Oh, no, it's not the bits. There's some bits I don't worry. I've got like a solid rail across the back of the boat. And maybe that's because I'm in the seniors division, but I like having a solid rail there because, in fact, I got a friend of mine. Who followed the Willing Griffin saga with the Hunter 19. You know, he was always impressed with that. So he got a Hunter 19, and he's been sailing the Pacific and this, that, and the other. And I remember a graphic story. He said he had a solid rail around the back of the boat, and he got pitch poled going in towards New Zealand after crossing the Tasman, and he was hanging on the back of the rail. He got chucked out, hanging on, looking at the boat upside down with the keel there, hanging onto the rail, and then it flopped up again, and he got in. I don't know. There's just something about a solid rail there, and I never worry about saving weight when I believe safety's involved, and I want solid stuff, or to a degree comfort. Because one of my overriding, I'll only be doing the Transat. I'm not doing the mini globe race. I may do some other little events later, but probably not. This for me is an expedition, and I'm sharing that. So this could be the last time that I do a trip. So yes, I'll perform as best I can, but the performance is not going to diminish the enjoyment of sailing under a full moon, looking at the universe, you know, contemplating the meaning of life. That's far more important for me, and this is a great voyaging boat. I'm going to enjoy myself. That's the first priority. Yeah. So some of that means there's a few things, you know. This is a beautiful Dodger. That's a solid stainless steel rail, you know, so I can hang on to it. And you know, I got a few things that are a little bit heavy, but not that much stuff. You know?
So what would you alter when you should be doing the run again?
That's an interesting point. I'm still no, there's not a lot. You know, when I do things, I tend to only do exactly the way I want it. I never go, oh, that'll do for now, or you know, I'll use this for the time being. If it doesn't work, I'll change it. I work out exactly what I want, and that's it. I end up with exactly, so it doesn't change. And this is a real little machine, so I don't think I change anything. You know, one interesting one, I like these lee cloths, not because they support our sponsors, because it takes a bit of the weather away, you know. And if I was doing the mini globe race, I thought for a while I would probably do full covers around there, because like a bit like a cruising boat. But in hindsight, I wouldn't now, because it makes a lot more windage. You know, proportion surface area for windage on the boat in terms of handling and control, I probably wouldn't do it now. I think it's better to be sailing the boat without these up, you know. So these come down once we cross the line and not come up. But yeah, I like this Dodger. I like the rig, everything the way it's set up. So I don't think I'd change anything at all.
So we are both lovers of small boats. It kept us talking about this concept for a long time, and with a lot of other people. And what we see is that a lot of people are attracted, even in such a way that they came down to Portugal to look at the boats, even when they were building, from mostly all over Europe. So and I see young people getting their heads around the concept too. What would you advise those people?
The first thing I'd say is make a decision whether you want to do it or not, and forget about the end cost. You know, I'm seeing a lot of people say, oh geez, 35,000, where am I going to find that from? Don't worry, get started, you'll find it. If you really want to do it, just get started, you'll find it. People will join what you're doing, they'll come and give you a hand, help you build the boat. So what if it takes 3 years or 4 years to find the money? It's a one design class, you know. And it's like anything, if you really want to do something and it all seems so daunting because it's so big, and 35 grand is not a small amount of, or insignificant amount of money. The thing is, one step at a time, you know, just get into it. So that's the first thing I'd say. If you really want to do something, do it. And you can do a lot of things with this boat. You can just go cruising, ocean voyaging, racing, you know, face your own demons in the ultimate challenge, you know, sail around the world, whatever. It's quite a unique boat, and I still maintain there's no other boat quite like this anywhere in the world. It sounds corny line, but the more I think about it, the more I think it's quite special. Yeah.
So in a few days you will be out again and on your own. So what do you want to take out of this one?
Oh, I just got to enjoy it, and I will. Nothing will stop me enjoying this one. There's going to be a rush to get out of town again, you know, chuck things on, but I can sort it out on the way. Yeah, the big thing for me, get safely over the other side and have fun, you know, and enjoy the ride. So that shouldn't be too hard to achieve, but let's wait and see. Touch wood, it's an adventure, and that means it has an unknown outcome.